Hey yo, what's up? Your boy in the house. We're back with another video. Guys, want the entertainment? Want the entertainment? Let's get. Got a cuckoo, got the stuffies, got the snakes, got the things, got the microphone. We ready, bro. We ready. We ready. Hey. Now, you all need to subscribe right now. Right now, hit that like button and hit the bell notification button. Let's go. Okay, I'm done.
My name is Nikki and I'm 19 years old. This past December, I got myself a Christmas temp job working at Amazon helping with deliveries. It gets pretty busy around that time for deliveries, obviously.
You guys won't guess what's in this. It's cake. Look at this beautiful cake. Hot.
Because it's Christmas. Right away, I hated the guy I was helping with deliveries. His name was Frank. To describe him, he was a bit overweight, didn't shave well, and his hair was short. I didn't like him because he was very rude and seemed like he was in a bad mood all the time. And I would be in the van with him most of the time making deliveries, and it was very awkward. I tried to make conversation with him, but like I said, he was very rude. And there was no point in trying after about 2 times.
Why you work with him,
to be
bro?
honest, or at least be with a different delivery driver, but I didn't want to cause any trouble. I was a temp after all and needed this job. I thought Frank was really rude and socially awkward and not a nice person to be around, but I never thought he would harm me in any way. One evening after finishing deliveries, we were driving back to the Amazon warehouse, or at least that's where I thought we were going. Frank passed the turn where we always go to the warehouse. As I said before, we didn't really speak, so I wasn't about to question him. He would probably snap at me anyway. After he continued driving, the more obvious it was to me he was taking me to another place. And it wasn't the warehouse. I finally asked Frank where we were going. He didn't snap at me, surprisingly. He just said we needed to run and do a quick errand. I was looking around my surroundings, and I could see that we were around empty fields and abandoned farmhouses. At this point, it was getting dark outside. Frank then pulled up next to a tall, overgrown, and unkempt cornfield. He said to me in a very firm voice to stay exactly where I was. Don't move. Frank then got out of the car and started walking up into the dirt road, disappearing into the dark
You
of
did.
night. 10 minutes
You
went by.
did, girl.
I sat in the van by myself in the dark and had no
Really
idea where
gonna
I
listen
was.
to her?
My phone was in the warehouse
You
in the
gonna
locker.
listen?
We weren't allowed to have our phones during work hours, so I couldn't even go on my phone or use it as a light source. I needed to pee and couldn't hold it any longer, so I got out of the van and headed into the cornfield to do my business. After doing so, I started to walk back towards the van. In the near distance of the cornfield, I could see flashlights. 2, in fact. I found that really odd as the whole area seemed to be abandoned. As I got closer to the van, I could hear a sort of heated argument going on between Frank and another man whose voice I couldn't recognize.
Oh my god.
I couldn't see him either. I heard the other man say, "Where is she? You said she was in the van." Frank then told the man that she was just in there and she has to be around here somewhere. The other man said to Frank, "If we don't find her, you're a dead man." That's what those flashlights were.
Oh my
Those
god.
men were already out in the cornfield searching for me. I snuck off into the field, walking quickly but as quietly as I could, the whole time crying and thinking I was about to die. After walking far enough,
Oh my god, guys. Google, protect me.
I ran down
Google.
the side of a lone dirt road.
Bro.
I have no idea for how long, but eventually I came across an old diner which was still open, thank God. And the manager called the police for me. After this incident, I quit my job. But this wasn't the end of it.
You
About 2 weeks
better
after I quit my job,
your job.
I got a call from my boss who employed me. He told me that I was the last one to see Frank, as no one has seen him since. Apparently there were rumors that he owed people money from gambling bets, the people you don't want to be in debt with. As much as I don't like to think about it, I'm pretty sure Frank's way of paying off his debts with those people was to hand me over to those men. And what those men had planned to do with me, I never wanted to imagine.
Oh my god. Whoa, that's scary. No, straight Straight off, I'm creeped by
My
the
cousin used to work at a
title.
police station, and this incident is about one of his colleagues' experiences. One day, he received a call from a gas station worker that he had been robbed, and the robbery escaped shortly before he called the police. He asked the worker if he could describe the suspect, and to his surprise, he said that the person was in fact a woman with a white dress, and she has very long dark hair, and also she was beautiful, he said. At first, she came to ask for help because she got lost in the middle of the night. So I went to the office looking for my boss and told him what had happened. We then went back to the cashier together, but when we came in, she was no longer there, and all the banknotes were also not in the cash box. Since he was the only one on duty that night, he headed to the spot of the incident right away. As he drove toward the gas station, he soon entered a darkened section of the highway that was surrounded by forest.
With a knife.
He was driving
And
in the
bag
middle of
full
a
of
gloomy
money.
highway until he noticed that a woman in a white dress with a very beautiful looking was walking along the road in the opposite direction.
Oh, shit.
He passed her accidentally, so he began to slow down the car and turned to check again if she's the person that the worker had described to him before. Then he
It's
turned
her.
the car in her direction, stopped next to her, and got out of the car immediately. Ma'am, I need you to get
Ma'am.
on the car right now.
Get in the car.
As they were driving to the police station, he asked her some basic questions
Ooh,
like
that's
why she had to steal the
creepy.
money or something else.
Bloody Mary
However,
stuff,
the
bro.
woman didn't say any word to all the questions while she was sitting in the back seat. She just looked at one point all the time until they arrived at the police station. Her behavior was pretty
Yeah,
weird,
boy.
so he thought that the woman might have some kind of mental problem.
That, bro.
He then decided that he would not have any further conversations with her.
You better.
When they arrived at the police station, they started to investigate her, and all of a sudden, she said that she would return the money the next day if they let her spend a night in a prison cell.
Okay, she's Mel.
Because
She's
she
Mel.
kept insisting that she
She's
had
Mel.
nowhere to go. He and other
Proper.
cops were confused by her comment,
Yeah,
but
proper.
they could nothing to do, actually. So they eventually approved of her proposal, letting her spend one night. The other police then called the gas station and informed the workers that they had captured the person, and they would return the money for tomorrow. The next day, he went to visit the woman they had detained yesterday. However, he was stunned as soon as he had arrived at the prison cell.
Bro.
In the cell, they found that her roommate's face was all scratched, and his body was hung from a wall nail. And the bills, which they didn't see yesterday, were all tucked in his pockets roughly.
Oh.
The wall
Holy
next to him
cow.
was painted in blood, saying,
Holy cow.
"I'm returning my
Holy
debt."
cow. Holy cow.
What made him even more frightened was that the woman completely vanished. He went to the director, informed this, and they had a search around the area widely, but she was nowhere.
Cow.
Even today,
Murder.
everyone in the police is traumatized by this incident. Now, that's what my cousin told me.
Uh-huh.
How could anyone escape from a prison cell avoiding the cameras recording or anything? Eventually, they never found out what had happened that day and where she is now.
Like, Momo. The heck are you doing in there? Who captured Momo?
This is my story. I used to have a habit of grinding my teeth while sleeping. So I had a lot of
Bro,
arguments with my roommate about this. Of course, I felt sorry for him.
Bro, is she drinking?
So
Drinking
I was
alcohol?
thinking
Bro,
about what
nah,
to do.
Man.
I finally found out that a mouthpiece would be a perfect solution.
Uh-huh.
I told him in a loud voice, "You're not going to hear anything from today on." I put the mouthpiece in my mouth and then I laid down. However, he suddenly shook me not too long after. I slowly opened my eyes. The lights were turned on and my roommate was looking
This
down
got
at me with a
creepy.
blank stare.
This got creepy.
"What's the matter?" I asked. "Something's weird," said my friend.
This got creepy.
And what he said was that he suddenly heard loud teeth grinding sounds again while he was
This got
sleeping.
creepy.
But this time, it was bigger than usual, and it sounded more vivid in his ears. And he finally felt that he had reached the end of his patience. "I'm gonna have to kill that bastard." Literally, this is how he felt
No.
at that moment.
You're
Only thinking
gonna
about that,
not-
he tried to find a
you're not
knife
gonna
and
do that.
put it in my mouth. But it was too
The
dark in the
heck?
room,
are
So he
you
turned on the
doing?
light to find it, and then the sound abruptly stopped.
No.
You know, when a person grinds his teeth or snores, it doesn't matter whether someone turns on the light or not. But when he turned the light on, the noise stopped. And when he came close to me, he found that I was sleeping quietly with the mouthpiece in.
No.
Then what did he hear? And the next thing my roommate says was, it just gives me goosebumps. Hey, if I hadn't turned the lights on and found the knife, I think I would have killed you.
Holy moly.
Pretty weird though,
Holy
but I couldn't
cow.
think of anything else.
Oh my god, bro. That's good.
I don't know where to begin. One night I was working part-time at a convenience store.
Hey,
There was a small warehouse inside where you could place orders and watch the CCTVs.
Go home.
It was so quiet that day that I just went inside and spent time just watching CCTVs. As you see, our convenience store makes a jingling sound whenever someone opens
That
the
gonna
door.
help.
But then, I saw a boy on a CCTV. How's it possible? I didn't even hear the bell ringing. In a panic, I slowly looked out, but I couldn't see the boy outside the window. At first, it seemed like he was walking around in front of the snack bar, but he gradually came toward the warehouse where I was sitting. What the? I was terrified. What the heck is that?
Hey, come on, another snack? You dreaming? You dreaming? You guys can't read it.
Then suddenly a man came inside.
No.
But I was already too scared to dare to go out. When he saw that there was no staff inside, he turned around and tried to go out again. But at that moment, I almost fainted when I saw his back. Riding on his back, the boy was staring at me.
No.
I was frozen on the spot.
Hey.
And after a moment, suddenly, I heard a big car and tires squeak.
Hey, you hear? Hey, that boy come in front of me, you better know I'm punching him. Hey, brother. Hey, come on. Do me. Hey, come on. Jeez.
He was hit by a car and died right away.
No.
Well, I still don't know what I saw that day.
Okay.
Let me tell you
By the way,
about
this
my
might be a
grandmother.
review of our previous episode.
She doesn't have one finger on her hand. When my grandmother was pregnant with my uncle and aunt, she got her finger stuck in the cultivator's motor, and it got cut off.
Oh.
Also, there were a lot of bad things that happened that year. And she had a lot of people who died or were sick around her. My great-grandmother took my grandmother to a shaman's house at the time after finishing her finger treatment. Well, just as expected, as soon as they visited her, she told her about her bad luck and some other stuff. My grandmother was about to go back home because she thought it was literal nonsense. All of a sudden, the shaman stood up and yelled, "Where's your finger?"
Oh no!
Her eyes turned white. Why did you attach your finger on in that place? My great-grandmother was surprised at the shaman shouting and asked the meaning. And then she answered like this. That woman's fingers went in her stomach. Less than a month after leaving the shaman's house, my uncle and aunt were born. And when my grandmother saw her babies, she was horrified. Both of them were born with polydactylism, so they both had 6 toes each on one side. Well, I still don't believe in ghosts or shaman stuff, but that story really gave me the creeps. This horrible incident happened when I was 15 years old.
Let me draw something.
I had a doctor's appointment to check up on my arm.
Let me draw something with my eyes. But no, how's she doing that?
As I had sprained it a few weeks before.
Uh-huh.
I had to remove my bandages that day, so I was sitting in the waiting room waiting for my turn to see the doctor. Then I suddenly noticed a very tall guy in front of me. Maybe he was about 6'2". He had black hair and was a neat type with a clean-shaven face. And he was wearing a long black trench coat and baggy black tracksuit bottoms. It was obvious that he looked a bit odd, but I decided to ignore him as I was often easily paranoid to strangers. However, a strong smell instantly invaded my sense of smell when he just sat next to me.
No.
He smelled like he had something rotten hiding inside of his coat. It was so horrible to endure it, and eventually made me feel sick to my stomach. I instantly got up, rushed to the toilet, and then I ended up throwing up. After cleaning myself up, I went back to the waiting room.
You ain't
Luckily, that
gonna
man
go
was
back
gone.
there.
My doctor was waiting for me at that time, so I went to her office, and she got my bandages removed. I told her about the man that I saw just before, and she said she'd seen him before too. She thought there was something off about him, but she eventually didn't say anything. Of course, I couldn't blame her, so I just greeted after that and then left the hospital. As I was coming out from the entrance and about to walk toward my home, I suddenly heard some heavy breathing in an alleyway next to the hospital.
No.
At first, I couldn't see clearly who it was because of the shadow, but soon after,
The cave?
I realized that he was the same man that I had seen in the waiting room. He didn't leave. What should I do? I was terrified. However, there was something strange about his motion, though. I looked more closely, and I could make out him biting on a severed arm. And that's when I realized that it was the source of the stench I smelled in the waiting room. I almost screamed, but held my breath as much as I could, and then ran down the road to call the police immediately. As soon as they arrived in about 5 to 6 minutes, they knocked him down on the ground to arrest him.
Yes.
I figured out later that he was finally indicted on charges of kidnap and murder of people. And because of that incident, I didn't go to the hospital and stayed at my home for a while. I wonder, what if I had screamed when I was there and he found me? Would I have been the next victim that he was chewing on? I think it was a good decision that I made at the time, and I'm just glad that I'm still alive.
Oh. Bro.
This incident occurred when I just turned 12. It was a big day for me, since we were going to throw my birthday party. Everyone in my house was busy decorating inside. A lot of my friends and all my family members were supposed to come, so I was pretty excited at that moment. Later on, almost everyone had arrived, and I was waiting for 2 girls named Saya and Alania. They were twin sisters whom I just met a few days ago. We weren't actually that close to each other, but I thought they were nice and fun to hang out with. So I invited them the day I met them on the street, and they laughed and said that they would love to come. In fact, I didn't really think about them and forgot about those twin sisters since I was enjoying the gifts I got. A few hours went by. I heard a loud knock on the door suddenly, and when I opened the door, the twin sisters, Saya and Alania, were standing there and smiling. "Come on in." I greeted them and tried to invite them inside. However, one of the girls said, "We weren't expecting this many guests." At first, what she told me seemed pretty odd, but I didn't think much of it because they were too shy and didn't like being around too many people. So I introduced them to everyone in the house. Everything was fine.
Literally just said you don't know them too well. Oh, moly.
Until that moment. Not long after, they came closer to me saying that they had my present. It was the cake they made. It looked like a normal cake, but smelled really bad. And it looked like it was rotting for a long time. No doubt, I felt disgusted. I decided not to judge by its looks, so I eventually tried one bite. To my surprise, it tasted really good. I proceeded to eat more and more, But then, my eyes suddenly started to go blurry. The last thing I remembered were the twins' big creepy grin, and that I was dragged by them somewhere. Then I passed out. I don't know how much time went by, but when I woke up again, I was in a hospital. I could feel my whole body hurting, and my parents almost cried when they saw me wake up. I was confused and asked the nurse standing next to me what had happened. Then she told me that a lot of guests noticed that I was gone at certain points on that day. They were looking for me, and they eventually found me unconscious and beaten up terribly in our shed. My parents were shocked and immediately called the ambulance and the police.
Oh my God!
They asked everyone all kinds of questions, but then one of my friends noticed the twin girls were gone too. Eventually, they were found in my attic, hiding behind some big boxes. It was said that they were covered in blood and were smiling widely at the police. It turned out that the girls put the heart and the guts of a dead sheep, some small bones, and even thin, small needles in the cake I ate. And they also put lots of candies, chocolates, and some sweet things, so that's why I couldn't notice anything weird. It is said that the girls had escaped from juvenile a few days ago, exactly on the day I first met them. Fortunately, I didn't swallow any of the needles, but I had to suffer from food poisoning badly for a while. The doc told me I was very lucky to survive. To this day, I still wonder what would have happened to me that day if my family and friends hadn't found me in time.
What about the girls? Holy mackerel.
I'm in charge of sound editing and audio at one of the broadcasting stations, and this is what I experienced the other day. The inside of our editorial room used to get too dark and gloomy, especially at night. So there were a lot of people who said they saw ghosts there.
No.
After I joined this broadcasting station, I just laughed when I heard about it.
What?
Nah, who believes that? However, not long ago, I had to change my mind.
What do
The
you
audio
mean?
file and film would sometimes disappear every other day. Of course, I was scolded by my seniors because of it, so I worked until dawn to make up for my mistakes. The hallway in the editing room was pretty long, and there was a small warehouse inside the room on the far end of the
That's
hallway where the film
creepy.
was kept.
Creepy.
Originally, only the people in charge could enter the room. However, for some reason, I kept hearing a squealing sound in the room that day. I guess someone's still working.
Don't investigate.
While I was editing, I kept hearing that noise. Wondering who was inside, I got up from my seat, came out into the hall.
White people be investigating. White people be investigating. Bro, if I were you, I'd tell my dad, hey dad, look at this. Hey, can you go down there? Hey, police, hey, come on.
Way and open the warehouse
White
door
people
slightly.
be investigating. Hashtag don't
And
investigate.
there was someone inside the room. A woman with disheveled hair was lying on the
You're
floor.
gonna go closer,
attaching
right?
her stomach.
I'm telling you, you're
She
gonna go.
kept making grotesque sounds and crying. She was also frantically pulling out the tape from the film. The scariest part was the speed she was pulling the tape out. It didn't seem normal.
Get out.
It was abnormally fast, and her posture was just... She didn't just lie
Dad.
on her stomach. She didn't have a lower body. I ran away from the room screaming like crazy. And the next day, I told my senior about this. And the senior, who was listening quietly, said this. After hearing it, I couldn't sleep at all. Maybe she was looking for the film she had appeared in. Well, let me tell you my story. I'm working as a police officer. I experienced
Nice.
something really incredible a while ago,
What?
but no one believed my story, so I'm here to tell you this. Not long ago, my team and I were dispatched on a mountain after receiving a report that there was a dead body there. While we were doing some research on the dead body, I went closer to it and started to check it out. It seemed like it hadn't been long since he died, and furthermore, his body's condition was really clean.
What?
I guess this man probably committed suicide. I was thinking that, but it was at that moment. Not yet. The dead man was staring at me, with his eyes slightly open, and I definitely saw him saying it based on the shape of his mouth. He's alive! I saw it! I screamed, grabbed the other cops, and shouted, but soon, I eventually got scolded by the chief, and he told me not to disturb the other cops. He also told me that the body's cardiac arrest was checked already. I soon became devastated. Did I not see it? Did I just witness something wrong? It turned out that it had been about 10 hours since he died, and the cause of his death was suicide. I started to tell another senior police officer. He listened carefully to what I was saying, and he finally said this. Well, sometimes there are people like you. You know, those types of people sometimes hear the last thing the dead wanted to say. I just heard this from someone I know. One day, he got up as usual, and then he stared at his finger with a blank expression on his face.
What?
Why don't I have 6 fingers? Why do I have 5 fingers? Where's the other one? He started to have these kinds of thoughts out of nowhere. He was so worried, and he kept thinking about it on his way to work. And he was so scared when he came back home that he burst out crying. However, he eventually realized it only before he came home and was about to fall asleep. Oh, yes. I have 5 fingers, actually. A few days later, he posted about this on an online community. Well, of course, most people treated him like a crazy person or just laughed at him. In the meantime, a comment written by one person stuck deep in his mind. The anonymous commenter said he might have early-stage schizophrenia, and he asked him, what if he thought he had 4 fingers instead of 6 eventually? I got goosebumps when I heard that.
The bruh, what was that? I didn't understand a single thing that man said. Bruh, you gotta be kidding me. You wish you had like... Don't understand. But guys, I'm gonna end this video here. I think it's a good place. Please subscribe, like, comment down below what thing you want me to react to or what game you want me to play. Please comment down below. Like, a lot of you are watching my videos, but like, you're not commenting. At least comment and hashtag subscribe. Like, please, 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 please. So guys, good Friday.